Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova responded to Copenhagen's refusal to allow Moscow to join the investigation into the Nord Stream explosions, describing it as complete fraud and scam.
This is such a fraud, a total scam. Not even a con, but a three-penny game, which in my opinion, no one has bought for a very long time. They are playing this for themselves, but the story with Nord Stream will not end the same way as many other stories they've buried or covered up, for the simple reason that there's a lot of money at stake.
Denmark, Sweden and Germany all have rule of law, and one can have confidence in our investigations. We have told the Russians that we will investigate this thoroughly, and when we have done it, we will announce the results of that investigation.
American investigative journalist Seymour Hersh earlier published a report alleging an attack on the Nord Stream pipeline by specially trained American Navy divers. NATO Baltop's drills were allegedly used as cover for planting the bomb under the pipeline in agreement with the Norwegian government. Biden's decision to blow up the pipelines came after more than 9 months of secret discussions about how to carry out the mission and who would be held responsible. However, Hersh's arguments were dismissed by Europe and Washington, with the report branded a complete fiction. The leader of the French Patriots Party said the Nord Stream pipeline could have become a key hub between Europe and Russia, and therefore became an inconvenience for the U.S.
Even before the theory put forward by Hersh, who is a very credible journalist, it was obvious that the Americans were behind the explosion. After all, even before the war in Ukraine, the US had been fighting the Nord Stream pipeline for years. It had become a permanent part of their policy. And in early February 2022, Biden publicly stated that the Americans were capable of making the pipeline disappear. And so it happened. After all, it was in the interests of the Americans. Norway is Russia's gas competitor, and many countries have replaced Russian gas with Norwegian gas. So they too had an interest and enriched themselves at the expense of it.
We heard from the foreign policy spokesperson for Alternative for Germany Party, Armin Paulus-Hampel, who says that the main suspect, Olaf Scholz, had prior knowledge of what the U.S. was up to.
Well, what should the Germans report about? They themselves are not informed, and therefore you are unable to forward anything to Moscow. Germany was excluded for a long time. Information was sparse, if it was available at all. The German public has heard almost nothing for months. It emerged from the story of a US journalist. He seems to have been the one who sparked the debate again. In Germany, one tries to keep the discussion about it as quiet as possible. This already proves the current state of the German Bundestag today. This is the most important question for Germans. During the last visit of the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, to Washington, when Biden was asked how he wanted to stop Nord Stream 2, and he said, "We can't stop it." One suspected that Olaf Scholz perhaps already knew what the Americans were up to. You had the findings of the US services as well as the German intelligence. The German Attorney General has confirmed that, and the German authorities said there was possible involvement of a Ukrainian group. This is considered impossible among experts in Germany. It is completely impossible for a small group of 6 to 7 people, even with 2 divers, to dive into the Baltic Sea at 70 to 80 meters depth and blow up a concrete-encased pipe. That is simply impossible. Thus, it is a distraction from the actual facts.